First of all, we would like to say all praises be to the Most High in the name of Yeshua on this Sabbath. And may he give us the spiritual fortitude and understanding to bring forth this information today on his Sabbath. All right. Now, today, we're going to touch on a few things. All right. A class just happened, night before last, in which we went into with the GOCC men the complete understanding of how we can calculate the time on what you would call an elementary level to show others, so that there's no confusion going forward concerning the times. All right. In that information, we made sure we went step by step, so that if the elders or deacons are asked questions by others of why we calculate the time a certain type of way, outside of what you would see the Jewish people and the most Hebrews following, that you would be able to give them a poignant, direct answer with understanding and show them the truth concerning the Most High. So what I would like to do today through the Spirit of the Most High, I would like to bring forth some of that information to you today. All right. And after that, we're going to touch on the understanding of portals. And really, when it comes to time, understanding time and understanding the portals is one and the same. If we link to the Most High's time, you'll understand the holy days when they fall from year to year without any interruption up until eternity. We, not only through showing you this, we're going to also show you what the deceivers have done to make it where the children of Israel would never follow the truth concerning the Most High's holy days, to make sure that they would do anything to disconnect us from the truth of the Most High concerning his holy days. All right. So we're going to go into that, the time factor, and we also are going to go into the portals and the truth concerning the portals of the heavens in proximity with the earth. And what does that mean for us, believers in Christ, to be here at a time in which he will soon come? What does that information mean? What do the portals mean? All right. So through the Spirit of the Most High, we're going to try to tie all this in. Well, we will tie all this in today. We'll be using today the book of Jubilees. We'll be using the book of Enoch. All right. And we will also be using, first and foremost, the Holy Bible. All right. Now, once you see this information today, you'll know beyond any shadow of a doubt that the truth concerning the Most High and the records of the Most High are infallible when you understand them all together. All right. And that it cannot be disputed that time itself, which the Most High created, can only be resolved through Scripture. All right. Now, we're going to also put this out there today, that our holy day, all right, and when I say our holy day, for the beginning of the year, is March 15th. March 15th, okay? Wanted to make sure we understand that. We did classes on it a while back, all right, and someone brought it to my attention that I may have misspoken of a date, even though the information was correct concerning it, that the date may have been misspoken. I don't know. I didn't go back to view it, okay, but I will tell you today that it's March 15th, and I'm going to show you how you can calculate the new month of the year yourself. All right, so let's go. In understanding time, all right, I need you to go to the book of Jubilees first. Let me grab my Jubilees here. Water. Let's get it out of Jubilees concerning time first. Yeah, hold the one in Enoch also. Just grab my big book of Jubilees out there if you don't mind real quick. You have it? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go. We're in the book of Jubilees. All right. Now, for those who don't understand or know about the book of Jubilees, let me give you some understanding. All right. The book of Jubilees is further information given to the children of Israel on the mount. The Most High gave the children of Israel, our people, more than what they're showing you, more than what we can see in the Torah. All right. Wow. Yeah, this is already marked. You got it? Mm-hmm. So we're going to be coming out of Jubilees, pseudepigrapha of the Old Testament. All right? Also, we're going to illustrate a few things that we'll be teaching on screen so that you can see exactly what we are seeing. So we'll illustrate this for those who will, those that learn easier through visuals. So we will illustrate it through our screen today so that you will be able to calculate the times yourself. Okay? Let's start in the book of Jubilees.
It states here in the book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 23.
Now we're going to show you what's in the book of Jubilees. Now Jubilees is the breakdown of 7. You will not understand or know the times if you cannot break down the number 7. It's that simple. 7 is Jubilees. All right? Whether it be in a week, whether it be in hundreds of years, it's still Jubilees. So you have to be able to break down 7. So when the Most High said and told Moses, our leader in the Old Testament, when he told him to remember the Sabbath to keep it holy, it was also so that his people could keep track of time concerning prophecy. Right? Read.
The book of Jubilees, chapter 6, verse 23. And on the new moon of the first month.
Go ahead.
And on the new moon of the 4th month. And on the new moon of the 7th month. And on the new moon of the 10th month are the days of remembrance, and the days of the seasons and the 4 divisions of the year. These are written and ordained as a testimony forever. And Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever, so that they have become thereby a memorial unto him.
Now let me go over this real quick in the chapter and verse where it says a new moon 4 times a year as a memorial. Most out there would relate this to the moon you see in the sky, which is one of the greatest deceptions the Gentiles have placed on our people. Before this time, and I'm going to show you according to scriptures, that there was no such thing as observing a new month using a moon. Why? Because the moon is out of course with the yearly table. There's 364 days in a year. And with the moon, you can only get 354 days within a year. So what it's really speaking of is new month. There's 4 new months. Now, how to calculate the months is how we're going to show you in relation to how we showed the brothers the other night in the class. How do you calculate what a new month is? That will be illustrated for you today. Now, for those who would say, well, how do we know that it's not speaking of the moon? And I know that question could be out there. Well, there's different Hebrew words for the word moon. Now, I need you to get the word moon in the book of Genesis here.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verse 9.
Go ahead.
The Hebrew word is H3394. This is the luminary moon.
This is the luminary moon. Read.
Yerach.
That means when you look out in the sky, the Hebrew word for moon, for what you see in the sky, is Yerach. Now let's get another word for moon within the Bible. In the Hebrew, where it speaks of a new moon. Chapter and verse.
This is the book of 1 Samuel 20 and 5.
Go ahead.
The Hebrew word is H2320. The Hebrew word is Chadash.
Chadash. So Chadash is for your holy days and change of season when it says new moon or new month. Yerach is the moon itself, the luminary brightness of the moon that was created in the beginning. Now, someone asked, well, wouldn't that confuse us if it says the word moon there, when we know that it's not speaking of a physical moon? The answer is yes. They purposely did it this way. Why? Because the Jewish powers that rule today are following the Babylonian way of resolving the moon from the year using the moon. Before our Babylonian captivity, we as a people, the children of Israel, never followed the physical moon from year to year, because by doing so, it would throw the whole quantification or the whole understanding of time off kilt. And I'm going to show you today. You'll never be able to resolve the year to year to year if you follow the physical moon in the sky. And the scriptures tell you why. So yes, the Masoretes, which are linked to our modern day Jesuits, did this while we slept. While the children of Israel were in darkness, the Jewish people injected the moon so that we could lose track of time. So yes, the records we have, they have actually placed moon in them. But the Most High have given us his holy tongue, the Hebrew, to resolve these matters so that we don't throw out this information just because they changed a few words. Okay? So on top of teaching the world the truth through the Spirit of the Most High, we'll also tear down the lies of those who took our records while we slept. See? So now let's go back to Jubilees. So this is not speaking of the Yerach or the moon. It's speaking of a change of month that have nothing to do with the moon. Read.
This is the rest of verse 25. And on the new moon of the first month, he was bidden to make for himself an ark. And on that day, the earth became dry. And he opened the ark and saw the earth. And on the new moon of the fourth month, the mouths of the depths of the abysses of the earth were opened, and all the waters descended into them.
Go ahead.
And on the new moon of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains were seen, and Noah was glad. And on this account he ordained them for himself as feasts, for a memorial forever. And thus are they ordained. And they placed them on the heavenly tables, and each had 13 weeks, from one to another, from their third to the fourth. And all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days.
52 weeks of days, so 1 year will always be 52 weeks. Read.
And these will make the entire year complete. Thus it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets.
That means when you look in the skies, which is the heavenly tablets, it's ordained there. Read.
And there is no neglecting this commandment.
There's no neglecting this commandment. That means from the spiritual realm, year to year come in the same way. Read.
For a single year.
For a single year.
Or from year to year.
From year to year. So what we'll have is 364 days from year to year. All right. Now let's go into how it say that the Gentiles would begin to have us follow the moon.
It says, and command thou the children. This is verse 32.
32. Read.
And command thou the children of Israel.
And he told Moses to command the children of Israel
that they may observe the year according to this reckoning. 364 days.
How many?
364 days.
364 days.
And these will constitute a complete year.
And these would constitute a complete year. Read.
And they will not disturb its time from its days and from its feast. For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony.
Everything will fall out from them according to their testimony. That means if we don't follow this 364-day cycle from year to year, our holy days and all that through the year will be thrown off. And you're going to find out for years this was so. But the Most High at the very end would reveal how to deal with this holy days before we're reckoned with as a people in the wilderness. We would have that information. Read.
For everything will fall out in them according to their testimony.
Go ahead.
And they will not leave out any day nor disturb any feast. But if they do neglect.
And
do not observe them according to his commandment.
So if we don't follow the Most High 364-day cycle,
then they will disturb all their seasons.
They will disturb the seasons.
And the years will be dislodged from this order.
Go ahead.
And they will disturb the seasons and the years, and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the new moons.
They will forget the new months.
And seasons.
And seasons.
And Sabbaths.
And Sabbaths.
And they will go wrong as to all the order of the years.
See that?
For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising.
Go ahead.
For the book lies written before me, and on the heavenly tablets. The division of days is ordained, lest they forget the feast of the covenant and walk according to the feast of the Gentiles.
So they'll forget the feast of the covenants that the Most High has given us and begin to walk after the ordinances and holy days of the Gentiles. Well, it's the Gentiles ruling over us today. Even if you're following the Jewish holy days, you're following the holy days of the Gentiles because they have purposely thrown off time concerning our holy days. Okay? They have no respect for Passover or all the holy days they claim they respect. In actuality, all the days the Jewish people celebrate parallels the Babylonian high holy days to Baal. Read on.
After their error and after their ignorance.
After the Gentiles' error in ignorance. Why? Because the law was not given to the Gentiles. So the majority of the Hebrews that are out there are actually following the Jewish way of reckoning holy days from year to year. So how can you get the information from the enemy and say that they are correct? If they lied concerning who they are, of course they would lie concerning the holy days. The last thing that they would want to do as a people is to connect us as a people, the children of Israel, to our God. So while we slept, they changed certain words so that we, when we awaken and search for the Most High, would fall into a snare that they have set for us. To continue to follow their the Gentile ways in the gods, the fallen gods, the Gentiles' leaders. Read on.
For there will be those who will shortly make observations of the moon.
Here's the mistake we will make. We will do what?
For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon.
It would be those who would make observation of the moon. Read.
How it disturbs the seasons.
How it disturbs the seasons.
And comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon.
It comes in from year to year, 10 days too soon. Read.
For this reason, the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order.
Now, why does it say the moon that from year to year it comes in 10 days too soon? Well, if any of you were to actually get the cycles of the lunar before you, you'll see that there's 6 months, 30-day cycles for the moon, and 6 months, 29 days for their monthly cycle. And when you add those days together, it gives us 354 days. That means each year, if you go by a lunar year, it's coming in 10 days early. So imagine if you did this for thousands of years, hundreds of years. That means your clock would be well past the correct heavenly table's clock. See? But if you follow the 52 Sabbaths, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. If we were to stay on those Sabbaths, that means this year, March 15th, I don't have to calculate anything else. I can count 52 Sabbaths and know that the next year, no matter what your Gregorian calendar says, I know that that Saturday sundown, when I count 52 Sabbaths, is the new year. It's that simple. All right? It's that simple. That's because we will not reckon time according to the moon. The Most High gave Moses this information, this understanding. See? You know, if Moses had the information, who was sent to speak to Moses? Christ. So Christ would have the information. On top of that, you had the Essenes, who was separated from the priest who went off. The Essenes was separated to preserve the information. Read.
For this reason.
For this reason.
The years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day the day of testimony.
So they would make an abominable day. That means our people eventually following the Gentiles would make a satanic day. Read it again.
For this reason.
For this reason.
The years will come upon them when they will disturb the order.
The years will come upon our people in which we will disturb the order.
And make an abominable day the day of testimony.
Go ahead.
And an unclean day a feast day.
And an unclean day a feast day.
And they will confound all the days.
And they will confound all the days. Read.
The holy with the unclean.
Go ahead.
And the unclean day with the holy. For they will go wrong as to the months and Sabbaths and feasts and jubilees. For this reason I command and testify thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death thy children will disturb them, so that they will not make the year 364 days only. For this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals.
So read that again about the 364 days.
Yes, sir. For this reason I command and testify thee, that thou mayest testify to them. For after thy death thy children will disturb them, and they will not make the year 364 days only.
364 days only. Read.
For this reason they will go wrong as to the new moons and seasons and Sabbaths and festivals, and they will eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh.
When it says they shall eat all kinds of blood with all kinds of flesh, that we will actually be dealing with the holy days at the same time that Gentiles are dealing with blood sacrifice. Satanic sacrifice. So you think you're following the holy days the Most High gave you, but the elite powers that are controlling the earth are sacrificing children and drinking blood and doing all types of evil and wicked things on the same day, to reverence their God. And this is how the Most High said it would happen, that the Gentiles would rule over us, and we would begin to follow the heathenistical ways of the Gentiles. What you have there, 1 Corinthians, right?
Yes, sir.
10 and 20, read it.
But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils.
So their holy days and everything the Gentiles do are to devils. So if you're looking at a moon or a slither of the moon to count from even in your ignorance, because we've all followed things that we thought was true in our ignorance, even when we began to understand we were Hebrews. We found out we were Hebrews, and then we began to still go back to the same Gentiles who have taken our identity to figure out holy days. We had no idea that they switched the holy days from the reckoning of 364 days in calculation to us now using the moon, which is out of course each year. And I used to wonder why it was so hard to calculate like that. Why? Each year you got to start counting over and over again when the Most High is not the author of confusion. Because they did exactly what the Most High said they would do. They would throw the whole time out of course. So the Most High says in Corinthians, and through the Spirit, that the things that the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to who?
To devils.
To demons. Read.
And not to the Most High.
And not to the Most High. Read.
And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils.
And we cannot say that we're down with the way the Gentiles are doing things, because we know that when they get in charge, they will begin to reckon our holy days with the moon. And guess what? We've gotten a lot of pushback when we came with the truth concerning this. But you know what? I would rather have the pushback and have the truth out there than to just hide this understanding for the sake of getting along. For the sake of not disturbing the internet community, or Hebrews that have been doing things for a certain amount of time for years, and now someone's going to come later and say, well, we can't do it this way. Well, this is what the Most High said. As we come closer, we're going to get closer to the times that are written on the heavenly tables. We're out of course. Right? Now, I need you to go now to the book of Enoch. Now, why are we going to the book of Enoch? We're going to the book of Enoch because the Most High before the flood gave Enoch a table of how to keep time from year to year, the 364-day table. And by this course, if we continue in this course, we will never be off time concerning the Most High Sabbaths year to year, his feast days year to year. So before Moses had the information, Enoch had the information. Not only did Enoch have this information, Noah had this information, like we read in the book of Jubilees. That it was a change of seasons, which was for each part of Noah's existence in the ark. So that was a time of a year. See? That linked directly to the same time given to Enoch. So let's go to Enoch real quick. Now I'm going to have people understand a few things of how they change time. Before we go there, let's go to Daniel's, where it says they would think to change times and laws.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
So the people that were placed in charge, predominantly the Romans, who are now have hid their Roman genealogy and their Idumean ideology by hiding themselves in jewelry, by hiding themselves as Jews. It's speaking of the Romans. They shall think to change times and laws. Read.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
To show you these people who would think to change times and laws would in the end be over God's chosen people until the reckoning. which is the time, and dividing of times. So these people that are ruling the earth under Satan, purposely while we slept, did everything in an attempt to change time. Now, can you really change time according to the Most High heavenly tables? The answer is no, because the heavenly tables are still intact 364 days a year, which means the stars are going to come out the time they're supposed to in their cycle. The moon and the sun and the moon is going to operate in their cycle from year to year. So that's never going to change from the heavenly realm. It's the deception that would happen on the earth concerning our connection to the Most High. See that? Now, we're going to show you how we can get back on that time. But before then, I'm going to illustrate something to you that probably you didn't know concerning time. Today, we have what we call a 24-hour clock. 12 hours day, 12 hours night. But according to the ancient records, time wasn't reckoned that way. There were 18 parts that we're going to read about in a moment. There were 18 parts. 9 parts day, 9 parts night. But the difference is, instead of 60-minute intervals per part, you had 80 minutes intervals per part. So you had an 18-part day, or what you would call complete cycle of what we call a day. 9 parts day, 9 parts night. 80 parts per minute. Now check out how many minutes you will have in that complete cycle. 1,440 per day. See that 144? To show you that even in a complete cycle, it's divided into 7. That's how it was. Now the Egyptians came on the scene and said that they're going to switch that a little bit. Did they change time? No. But what they did was they changed the equation. They made what you would call a 24-hour clock, giving us 12 parts for day or night, 12 parts night, 12 parts day. And instead of the 80 per part, they switched it to 60 per part. But it's still the same equation. 1,440 minutes in a cycle, to show you the Most High Sabbath breaks down even into minutes and seconds. It's still that 144 we see over and over in Scripture. Right? So the Egyptians changed it from 18 to 12 parts, but still it's the same 144. All right? Now I'm going to show you that cycle and how that links to our holy days. All right? And we're going to try a share screen today to give you an illustration so that you can see yourself. All right? I need you to go to the book of Enoch.
It's the book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 1.
Go ahead.
The book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven.
Now, hold up. Before we go here, because I know there's some people in this class will ask why we're going into Enoch. All right. Let's go to some scriptures to show you that Enoch is valid. And I also want to say this. We as Hebrews, the children of Israel, God's chosen people who believe in Christ, we only respect the records of our fathers. We don't respect any other record of the Gentiles out there that would have us argue, debate, or question the records of our Father, because we know the Gentiles have alternative motive into why they would rather us look at their record than ours. It's common sense that they would lead us to follow their gods. So we don't have no respect for any Gentile record out there that would have us question our Father's records. Okay? But let's go into the Bible to validate Enoch real quick, so that everyone know that Enoch is a biblical a spiritual book that we should follow as a people. Read it.
We're going to start at Hebrews 11, verse 5. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death.
By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death. And when you go into the full understanding of why Enoch was translated, he was taken into the heavenly realm, given information of time, because there will be a judgment on the fallen angels who came down to earth at the time of Enoch, during the time of Enoch, that would taint mankind and lead earth to its utter destruction. So there was a time period in which those same fallen angels would be judged. So this is why the Most High took Enoch into the heavens, to record the judgment given to men concerning these fallen angels. Now, the majority of the religions you would go into, including Christianity, hide the fact that the spirits that they light candles to or worship and all that are those same fallen gods of what you would call Greek mythology. They're the fallen angels. So they do things in doctrine to hide the gods they follow. So we're not in a debate or have to argue whether or not gods came down or angels came down and slept with women. We know that for sure. That's not even nothing that can be disputed. It can be talked about and debated amongst others, but we know it's true. All right? So Enoch was taken down. The scriptures tell us that he was translated into the heavens. But yet, there's very little information that these religious institutions will like to give you concerning why was Enoch taken into the heavens. What was the purpose? We know the purpose: to judge the fallen ones. Because those gods who are now in hell today, bound in the center of the earth, or what the Romans call, they would like to call it Hades, or the underworld, like the ancient Egyptians. These are the fathers of the Egyptians. Some of the pharaohs' bloodline linked directly to these fallen angels. Okay? The same thing with your Caesars. Their bloodline links directly to these angels on the other side of the flood. Okay? So as we know, and these are the Canaanite religions that are in the earth, and the Canaanite religion is the mother religion of all the religions of the earth. I know you say Catholic, but you want to find out that the Catholic religion, the universal religion, is the Canaanite religion. The same religion, the same God that the Most High put the Spirit on David and others in the Old Testament to destroy. Now, as soon as our forefathers came out of Egypt, he put a spirit on Moses and the Israelites to war and go against these same gods. Okay? So they'll hide this in your religion. They'll never let you know that these are the gods that your presidents, the Queen of England, all the princes of this earth today are worshiping, because they believe that their bloodline links directly to these fallen gods. And in most instances, it's true that they are a hybrid creation outside of the Most High. That's why the earth is in the state it's in today, because they have no respect for the earth. The scriptures call them hybrids or bastards. They have no father. They have no respect for creation. So Enoch was taken to the heavens to one day to give us the information on how to judge and how to recognize the gods of this earth. You understand? And how to also preserve the righteous, to spiritually war against them. Okay? Read.
By faith.
By faith.
Enoch was translated that he should not see death.
Go ahead.
And was not found because the Most High had translated him. For he had this testimony.
He had this testimony.
That he pleased. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased the Most High.
The testimony he had is that he pleased the Most High. And he had a testimony to show you that there was a written record that your regular religions out here will never present to you. Now the Essenes, through the Spirit of the Most High, they scribed these particular records and put it in earthy clay and hid it from amongst men. Okay, and a lot of you, if you look at the Essenes, the Romans were looking to kill them. All the other Gentile kings were looking to destroy them, but the Most High preserved them so that they can preserve our record. They were separated from the priests who began to go off and go against the Most High. Later on, it was translated. The best translation of Enoch you can find is under R.H. Charles. Okay? Oxford University, yes, our universities, these universities who hide our information, they paid this man top dollar once this information was found in the Qumran caves to sit in a room for years to translate this information and hid it from the population. All right? Now we understand why the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, were found in the Qumran caves. Because the Most High knew that he needed some information in which the Gentiles or the Masoretes would not destroy or inject their ideology into. Let's read what Enoch, let's read in the book of Jude concerning Enoch.
This is Jude 1 and 14.
Go ahead.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these.
And Enoch prophesied of these,
saying,
he's speaking of those wandering stars. Read the 6th verse.
Verse 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate.
And the angels which kept not their first estate.
But left their own habitation.
Left where they lived, which is the heavenly realm.
He have reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day.
So the fathers that came down on Mount Hermon into the earth are bound in Hades. They are the gods of the underworld. One name you can give for one of them, in Egypt lore. In Egypt lore, there's a name for one of them.
Osiris.
Osiris. Osiris. And see, and that's why they won't allow us, our people, because I've been there, to actually go into the pyramids and read there's a record that's recorded there of why the pyramid was made and who's down there. Osiris is no mythological god, okay? He's bound in Hades. And the Great Pyramid is a gateway into Hades or hell. Okay? And you'll never hear this information in the Christian church. That's why your Queen of England, Barack Obama, and all of them go there and reverence their God, the fallen God, their father. Okay? Another name he has outside of Osiris is Azazel. Azazel. Read.
And the angels which kept not their first estate.
And the angels which kept not their first estate.
But left their own habitation have he reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day.
Go ahead.
Verse 14. And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam.
And Enoch also, the seventh from Adam,
prophesied of these.
He prophesied of these fallen angels before the flood. He prophesied of them. And I can't emphasize this enough because so many people try to deny that this actually happened. There's no such thing as Greek mythology or the mythological stories of ancient times. That's myth. No, these are true stories. These are true stories of the elite, reverencing their gods. So Enoch prophesied of these fallen angels. Read. Now they're heroes in our society, but they're the enemies of God. Look at all these movies they have out, where these same evil men are now renowned as heroes. Thor. Superman, which is El coming to the earth. On and on and on. Hercules, Perseus, on and on and on. They're making heroes out of these demonic hybrids. Have your children reverencing them as superpower or great superhumans that are here to save mankind, when really it's the story of the gods before the flood. Read.
Saying, Behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints.
The Lord cometh with 10,000 of his saints, which we know in the book of Enoch, it says holy ones. Go ahead.
Verse 15. To execute judgment upon all.
To execute judgment upon all of them. Read.
And to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds which they have ungodly committed, and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against him.
And that's written of in the book of Enoch, chapter 1, verse 9. He left that testimony. The Bible actually tell you. Now, what was Jude quoting? You mean to tell me in the New Testament there were disciples under Christ quoting Enoch? So that means Christians at this time knew of this judgment. See? But they would minimize the judgment of the gods and their leaders. Why? Because the leaders of this earth are set up over and control all religious institutions. So you'll never hear about this amongst them. Now, as you can see, the Bible validates the truth concerning Enoch and his testimony. Now we're going to go into Enoch concerning the time, of how we know how to calculate the time according to the 364 days which was reckoned according to Moses. That was reckoned and given to Moses also to show our people. And why are we doing this? We're doing this to show you that our holy days are precise from year to year. That the gathering of Christ's church will only deal with holy days concerning this 364-day reckoning. We will never deviate from that. We will never deal with holy days according to the calculations of the moon. All right? Now, let's go into Enoch and let's show it here.
This is the book of Enoch, chapter 72, verse 1. The book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven.
Go ahead.
The
book of the courses of the luminary of the heavens.
The relations of each according to their classes, their dominion and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, which is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are. So we know the angel Uriel is the god of all the luminaries, which you would call the general of all the stars, the sun, the moon, and everything that operates, which we see on the heavenly table. Uriel is the god under the Most High that's over these functions from the heavenly realm. Read. Which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, who was their guide, showed me, and he showed me all their laws exactly as they are. So there's a law of the heavens. All right. Read. And how it is with regard to all the years of the world and unto eternity. So we are to reckon this time according to what we're reading until eternity. Read. Till the new creation is accomplished which dureth till eternity. Until the new heaven and the new earth appears. We are to reckon according to this time. Now keep in mind, if we go off and start following the moon, we would lose course according to this time. And while the children of Israel slept, while we were in captivity, the Gentiles began to change things so that when we awaken, we would be on the course of the Gentiles. We would believe that we would follow the holy days according to we'll think that we're doing it according to the Most High, but would be following the Gentiles. Now, why is this important?
Why is this? Think about it. If the Most High destroyed our priests and took us down as a nation because we began to take our holy days and put it on the days of Baal, the Babylonian worshiping of the moon, if we fail doing that, how can we now make it as a people if we awaken as the children of Israel, find out we Israel, and then start following the same holy days the Most High chastised the priests for, on the same time of the Gentiles? So we must have a deviation. We can't do it like the Jewish people do it. We know what God they serve. We must do it according to the reckoning of the ancient tables. Listen to this clearly. Go ahead.
And this is the first law of the luminaries.
This is the first law of the luminaries.
The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven, and its setting in the western portals of the heaven. And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises.
There's 6 portals in which the sun rises.
And 6 portals in which the sun sets.
So here it is. There's 12 portals on the outside of the earth in the heavenly realm. These are windows or doors. Now, later on in the lesson, I'm going to go into how these windows are in relation to the coming of Christ. But there's portals or windows on the outside of the earth that connects directly to the heavens, into the middle heaven, which what we see when we look out into earth, into the earth. Now, these 12 portals, which the sun and moon cycles in and out of, now the Gentiles have turned these portals into what we would call gods or horoscopes to follow, because there's one spirit over every portal. So the Gentiles changed that into involuntary worshiping of angels by turning that into horoscopes, giving images to them, so that now they will guide mankind and show procrastination or future events, when we're not supposed to deal with that. The portals and the angels over them were not supposed to be used for divination. The Gentiles do that. Okay? Read.
And the moon rises.
Go back to the sun real quick, chapter and verse. So now, we're going to pick up from where we left off at and show you how to reckon the time according to Sabbaths and go into the portals according to Scripture. Right now we're in the book of Enoch. Please quote chapter 72.
We're in Enoch chapter 72, verse 1.
Go ahead.
The book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven and the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion and their seasons according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, who was their guide, showed me.
Go ahead.
And he showed me all their laws exactly as they are.
Now, like I was mentioning earlier, that there are 12 ports or portals in which the moon, the sun and the moon move out of. So they're lying to the population and science, making you believe that the earth is revolving around the sun, and that all the so-called stars, which they call planets, are revolving around the sun. That's a lie. Okay? What's going on is the earth is on its axis and have a cycle for that 364-day cycle. And all the luminaries go in and out of windows or ports around the earth. You may have seen something like this concerning an atom. And what science is really telling you is that everything is actually revolving around the face of the deep, which is the earth. Okay? And what the Gentiles have done, they've made a diagram of these portals so that mankind can worship these angels that are over the portals. That's what they have done. They've made a diagram and symbol to worship these angels over portals. And it links also to your horoscopes of how now mankind are using these portals for divination. But go on.
Who was with me, who is their guide, showed me, and he showed me all their laws exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world and unto eternity.
So you must calculate time for eternity according to what the Most High have shown Enoch. Read.
So the creation is accomplished, which dureth till eternity.
Until the new heaven and the new earth, which Christ will bring. Read.
This is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portals of the heaven.
Now let's break down the sun now. Go ahead.
And its setting in the western portal of the heaven. And I saw 6 portals of which the sun rises.
There's 6 portals in which the sun riseth.
And 6 portals in which the sun sets.
And 6 portals in which the sun sets. Go ahead.
And the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals.
Many windows to the right and left of these portals. To show you that these are windows from the heavenly tabernacle into the earth. So this is how angels or the spiritual realm travels into our earth. Read.
And the first goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of the heaven, and he is quite filled with the illuminating and heating fire. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns to the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate portal and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the 4th. And in the 4th portal from which the sun rises is the first month, or in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season.
So here we go. You see the sun moving through portals around the earth, which is indicative to months, leading to years. So the sun is not in one place 100 billion miles away from the earth. The sun is actually operating and moving in and out of portals around the earth. That's how it works. Science would have you believe that things came from a big bang, the sun is just in one place, the moon is in the other, and that the earth is perpendicular from the sun, and when the earth turns, then the sun shines on it. See, but that's impossible, because there's places that are underneath at the bottom of the earth that still receive sun. If the sun was just in one place in the heavens, it would only give light to the top of the earth. Common sense. So the sun is moving in and out of portals around the earth, which is also a time in itself, just as if a hand was moving around a clock. Read.
And in the 4th portal from which the sun rises, in the first month are 12 window openings, from which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through that portal 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th portal in the west of heaven. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter.
So what that's telling you is, when the new year begins, during the spring, you have more light each day. And then it keeps going until it gets to the fall. As a matter of fact, I have a diagram before me to show you. On the diagram, how when the beginning of the year, it calculates around. Each day, until it gets to this point, you have 2 minutes extra each day of light. And then when it's ticking down from the fall, you begin to get 2 minutes less of light. That's why you have less light going into the fall, and especially in the winter. So during the springtime, it starts here. You have equal parts day and equal parts night, we're going to read for the last day of the year. And then you start having more sun, 2 minutes each day, up until you get to this point, which is the center, which is fall. Then after fall, we begin to get 2 minutes less of sun, and that's why it's darker earlier during the winter, until it comes all the way around here again, equal parts day and night, and it starts giving you more day again. That's how it works. Read.
And during this period, the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter.
Go ahead.
To the 30th morning.
Until the 30th morning.
On that day, the day is daily longer, and the night by a 9th part. And the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts.
10 parts, and the night to what?
8 parts.
So you have 10 parts day, 8 parts night, showing us that originally there were 18 parts. Not a 24-hour part like you see today. That didn't happen until the Egyptians came on the scene. All right? 9 parts day, 9 parts night, 80 minutes per part. It's that simple. Right? Read.
And the sun rises from that 4th portal and sets in the 4th to returns to the 5th portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the 5th portal. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts, and amounts to 11 parts.
Now, just to get straight to the point, let's go to the last day of the year in a year, which shows us equal parts night and equal parts day. Now, we're going here, brothers and sisters, because if we wake up in the midst of this and couldn't calculate from last year, because you can't calculate from a year before, if you're waking up in the middle of the year, you want to know, how do we calculate going forward? So you go to the last day of the year, and something happens on that last day of the year every year to let us know when a new year is coming in. That's the point. Let's go there. Enoch.
This is Enoch 72, verse 30.
Enoch 72 and 30.
It says, on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the 3rd portal for 1:30 mornings.
1:30 mornings, go ahead.
And sets in the west of the heaven. 32. On that day,
which is the last day of the year,
the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts.
Go ahead.
And the day to 9 parts. And the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days, 364.
And it's exact to the days, 364. So what do we have here? What it's showing you on the last day of the biblical year, on the righteous year in which the earth should follow and don't, that there's equal parts night and day, which is right here leading to 0 to start a new year. See that? To start a new year for 0. The mistake people have been making, they've been looking at equal parts day and night, when the Most High says the evening and the morning were the first day. So you can't look at what the day is and try to look behind it and see when was there equal parts night after you did the day first. It's impossible. Because in a new year, each day you get more sun than night. You get more day than night. So if you try to say equal parts day and night and try to find that, you'll never find it. You must look the day before and know the time between the night first and the day for the last day of the year. And I'm saying that because we have people emailing us saying they cannot find the time anywhere. It's still off for minutes because they're looking at equal parts day and night. No, the night came first. So we did this calculation about 2 years ago and realized that each year, from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown at the end of the true year, is equal parts night and equal parts day. So every year, no matter what year we're in, the new year will always fall Saturday sundown. So this 0 here will be Saturday sundown. When we count 14 days from that, you have your first holy day called the Passover. Right here where that red line is. That will be the Passover, to show you that the Passover will fall Friday night to Saturday sundown every year. So the second Friday every year will be the Passover, which is in the second week of the first year written of in Leviticus 23. So instead of dealing with the moon, which they deceived us into thinking, we're dealing with the month. So we'll count 14 days from a new month for the year after equal parts day and night right here, and we'll automatically get the Passover. And see, by following this, we'll know when all the other holy days fall in also. The new month's real turn should have, the new moon's real turn in Scripture should have been new months. We got a month here, which is a Sabbath. A month here, which is a Sabbath, which is a dividing of seasons. Spring, summer, fall, winter. These division of lines give us the 4 holy days for the changing of season, and it have nothing to do with the moon. It have everything to do with the cycles. You got equal parts night, equal parts day. When that happens, that's Saturday sundown. New year. Saturday is the 7th. So each year ends on what? You got it. It ends on the end of the Sabbath, going into the first day of the week. Quite simple. It's cycles of 7. They threw us off. Now we're going to show you in Scripture, in the same Scripture, of what will happen if we begin to follow the moon. It tell you that in Enoch. Let's go there real quick when it speaks of the moon's luminary.
This is the book of Enoch, chapter 74.
Go ahead.
Verse 1. It says, "And after this law I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary."
The smaller luminary.
Which is named the moon.
Which is named the moon.
"And her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven. And her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind. And light is given to her in definite measure. And rising and setting change her rising and setting change every month. And her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform or full, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning. And on that day she becomes visible, and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun, and the portal where the sun rises."
Now what is that telling us in a nutshell? In order to actually know and count from the moon itself, you must first know the cycle of the sun in the beginning, because she don't come into light until what? The 30th day. So what was going on 30 days before that? See, you can't calculate her by herself, because she can't even be reckoning in a new year until 30 days have already passed. Can you see that? That's why it says in the 30th day. It don't start with the first day concerning the moon. See that? Read.
Verse 5. And the one half of her goes by a seventh part, and her whole circumference is empty without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 14th part of her life. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part of the half thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives 1/2 part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is visible that night with the 14 parts and half of one of them. And she rises on that day exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and receives from the rising of the sun, and in her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts.
And to resolve what we're reading here so you can understand when you read it back, she actually follows the sun through portals. See, it's the female following the male. So what happens if you begin to follow the moon, which actually is reckoned by what the sun does? You'll go off. And the Gentiles knew this. Now, I need you to go to the next chapter and show that. Read.
Yes, sir. Chapter 74, verse 1.
Read it.
And I saw another course, a law for her.
I saw another course, a law for her.
And how, according to that law, she performs her monthly revolution. And all these, Uriel, the holy angel, who is their leader of them all, showed to me in their positions, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me.
Go ahead.
And I wrote down the months as they were, and the appearance of their lights, till 15 days were accomplished. In a single 7th part she accomplishes all her light in the east, and the single 7th parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months she alters her settings.
It says in certain months she, with being the moon, alter her settings. So sometimes her cycle is off. It's going to show you that. Read.
And in certain months, she pursues her own peculiar course.
She does what she wants to do in certain months. Sound like female, right? Read.
In 2 months, the moon sets with the sun. In those 2 middle portals, the 3rd and the 4th, she goes forth for 7 days and turns about, and returns again through the portal where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light.
Go ahead.
And she recedes from the sun, and in the 8 days enters the 6 portals, the 6th portal from which the sun goes forth.
Go ahead.
And when the sun goes forth from the days, and when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days, until she goes forth from the 5th and turns back in 7 days in the 4th portal, and accomplishes all her light. And she receives and enters into the 1st portal in 8 days, and she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal, from which the sun goes forth. Thus I saw her positions, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. And at 5 years...
So Enoch is seeing this from the heavenly tabernacle. He's seeing how it operates from the heavenly realm. Don't forget, he was taken into heaven to see how the luminaries work in its proximity to earth. Right? Read.
And if 5 years are added together.
So if you add 5 years together, check out what Enoch says here. If you add 5 years together,
the sun has an overplus of 30 days.
The sun have an overplus of 30 days. Read.
In all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they are full, amount to 364 days.
Go ahead.
And the overplus of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days. And 5 years, 6 days, every year come to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and the stars to the number of 30 days.
Go ahead.
And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly.
The sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly. You notice it doesn't say the moon. And the reason why, because the moon comes in, yearly cycle comes in 10 days too early. Read.
So that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years.
But until when?
Unto eternity.
Read on.
But complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days.
So they complete their cycles with total justice for 364 days. Even the stars are in line the same way for 364 days. There's only one luminary out of all of them that's out of course from year to year, because her phase is only 30 days, 30 days, 30 days. 6 months is 30 days, 6 months 29 days, which is outside of the 364. See that? Now what we're showing you is pure math. There's no way you can keep track of time from year to year with a luminary that comes out of course each year 10 days. Impossible. So how would the prophets keep a fixed time for the Passover every year if this was so? Read.
This is chapter 74, the rest of verse 13.
Go ahead.
In 3 years, there are 1,092 days.
Now they're giving you math here. In 3 years, there's how many days?
1,092 days.
1,092 days.
And in 5 years, 1,820 years.
1,820 years, read.
Days left.
20 days, go ahead.
So that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days.
2,912 days, read.
For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days.
Look, it's 1,062 days for the moon. Read.
And in 5 years, she falls 50 days behind.
In 5 years, just in 5 years alone, if you're calculating with the moon, you fall how many?
50 days behind.
You fall 50 days behind. Now imagine if you did this following the moon since ancient times. And that's why a lot of clocks out there are well beyond the clock we see today, because they're still dealing with the cycles of the moon. Read.
And in 5 years, there are 1,770 days.
Go ahead.
So that for the moon, the days in 8 years amount to 2,832 days. For in 8 years, she falls behind to the amount of 80 days.
In 8 years, she falls behind by the amount of 80 days. That's just 8 years. You see why it told us from the beginning we should keep the Sabbaths and follow the time of Sabbaths? So we know in a real cycle of a year, we have 52 Sabbaths. The year come in, equal parts night and day, at the end of a Sabbath, which begins the first day of the year, which is really the first week of the year. And that cycle will continue 364 days until eternity. So the only thing you would have to find out at first, which we've already done the research on, was when did that equal parts night and day, when did that come in? And we come to find out that's every year, Saturday sundown. Every year, Saturday sundown gives you the first day of the year, and that never deviates. You count 52. Now, it doesn't matter what the Gregorian calendar, whatever they give you, it doesn't matter. Because the luminaries will always keep their course with the cycle of 364. And that's why on your calendars they give you leap years and different things to try to resolve the fact that they are not dealing with the 364. They have to do leap years and take away days and do certain things so that they can actually line up. Because if they didn't do it this way, then all the seasons would be out of course, because they're not going by the Sabbaths. So I don't have to resolve the heavenly calendar each year based on what the Romans did or what the Greeks did with the Gregorian calendar. It doesn't matter what they did. 364 days in the heavenly on the heavenly tables happen every year. 364. See? Read.
It says, all the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80.
In 8 years or what?
Are 80.
80 days she fall behind in 8 years. Read.
And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which it rises and sets 30 days.
So as we can see, none of us as Hebrews can actually calculate the time of the holy days from the moon. And I'm emphasizing this because we have another Passover coming up, and we have the New Year coming up, and you will never see the dates that we have as a church on any Hebrews time schedule. It'll never happen. By the same token, and see, that's why we deal with a lot of attacks, because we're revealing the truth that was hidden. By the same token, you'll rarely see the name of Ahiah being used by any of the other groups either. They'll say, well, that's just a title. When the Most High didn't, when Moses didn't ask, well, what was your, give me your title so that I can take back to my people. So not only are they following the name of the gods given to them by the Gentiles, they're actually following the holy days of the Gentiles. Still being Hebrews. And that's not far-fetched, because our priests fell and did those same things in old time. Now, how do we resolve understanding how these portals work on the outside of the earth, outside of it just being time? Because these portals on the outside of the earth are also used for something else. They're actually windows or gates into our realm from the heavens. So I didn't want to just go into the time to show you that the portals are a time piece for the year. It's deeper than that. And it also links directly to the coming of our Lord and Savior, Christ, when it comes to portals. And see, and that's why the world elites in this earth are working day and night while they're distracting us all, distracting you all and other people, especially those that are asleep, not you, because we know you are awakened, but have distracted the world while they're out in the heavenly realm preparing for the final war, knowing exactly from which portals the angels enter into our realm. That's the real reason they're out in space. Okay? That's the real reason. So I'm going to go into these portals real quick, and I want to show you a few things. First off, the United States never went to the moon. Let me make that clear. They never went to the moon. The eagle never landed on the moon. That was a Hollywood spread so that you all, well, the majority of the population of the earth, would not push back on the funding that NASA needed to build their weaponry and to go back out into the heavenly realm, like their Lord Lucifer promised he would take them. So Lucifer didn't only promise that he would go there, he promised the leaders of this earth that if they help him, he would take them with him. So you can't tell the population on the news, well, listen, we need some funding. We need you all to work for our corporation so that we can fund going out and fighting against Christ and fighting against the Heavenly Father, because there's really a spiritual war going on between us and the righteous angels. They can't tell you that. So they had to come up with some Hollywood spread that they landed on the moon so that now NASA can go before Congress and go before Senate and say, listen, we need more funding because now we've accomplished something. And who knows, there might be more life out there. It might be more territory. Hey, maybe we can find more water. If they really cared about finding something or improving the earth or life itself for us, then they would have treated the earth better. So it's not about going out to help the earth while they're destroying it. Don't you think that's a little asinine or backwards? They are not out in space to land on the moon or to find out if there's other life. They know there's other life. When I say there's other life, the leaders of the elite powers are another life form, Nephilim. And you don't have to go out in space to find them. They are on earth. Okay? So we're going to resolve the truth concerning these portals and what that means for Christ and the elect of the earth. Because these portals are windows from the heavenly realm into different parts of this earth. And they know this. And they also know that there is an elect in this earth that at the very end, when Christ returns, will be pulled through them. Because these portals operate from the heavenly realm into the earth, which means there's windows within the circumference of the earth, in which angels can travel from one part of the earth to another in less than a second. There's doorways in the earth that links directly to these portals. And that's how the angels come into the earth. Okay? Now, to show you this and how this links to Christ and his coming, let's go to Psalms, the 24th chapter real quick.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 24, verse 7.
And we're going to go into the Hebrew, because in order to understand this, you must have the Hebrew open before you. All right?
Psalms 24 and 7.
And this is one of the shortest Psalms. And it says so much. Start at the first verse.
Psalms 24 and 1. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof.
Go ahead.
The world and they that dwell therein.
The earth is the Most High's and the fullness thereof. Now we know that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. That the earth have been tainted and destroyed. We're talking about mankind having cancer. They have given the earth cancer to the point where the Christ will have to bring us a new heaven and a new earth. Read.
Verse 2. For he hath founded it upon the seas and established it upon the floods.
Go ahead.
Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord?
Who shall ascend unto the hill of the Lord? Now that's deep right there. Because ascending means what? Going out. You are ascending. Who will what?
Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in his holy place?
And who shall stand in his holy place? Now, hold that, because we know that this is only for the righteous. We know that there's a door or a window in which Christ left and will return. But what did Lucifer say? Stick with me.
This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12.
Read.
For thou hast said in thine heart.
This is what he have said. No, let's go a verse before that. How art thou fallen?
Verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer?
How did you fall from heaven, O Lucifer? And he's the God of all the Gentiles. I don't care what religion you're following. He's your God. In ancient Rome, he was called Zeus. In ancient Greece, he was called Zeus. And they don't make no bones about it. As a matter of fact, over in Europe today, in Turkey today, they have taken the whole temple of Zeus, which was in Pergamos, Satan's seat, and reconstructed it in a museum. So while you guys are out there claiming that, this is all mythological and the atheists are saying God don't exist, well, how did they reconstruct Zeus's temple in Turkey or over in Europe if this is not real? Read.
For thou hast said in thine heart,
This is what Lucifer has said in his heart.
I will ascend into heaven.
I will what?
I will ascend into heaven.
I will ascend into heaven.
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God.
I will exalt my throne above the stars, to showing you that he know about the portals. He know about the stars. He know about the heavenly tables that we read of in Enoch. See? Read, because he was once amongst them. He was an holy cherub that shineth from the heavens. Son of the morning, which means he was one of the singers that came before the throne every morning. Read.
I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation and the sides of the north.
So he promised to go exactly to where the Most High is. And that sides of the north is actually from the heavenly realm, but it links directly in the earth to Mount Hermon. The sides of the north, or the doorway from the sides of the north, from the heavenly realm, links into a gate in the earth, Mount Hermon. Let's get that real quick. Which shows the sides of the north is Mount Hermon. Then we're going back to Psalms 24.
This is Psalms 48 and 1 through 2.
Psalms 48, 1 through 2. Read it.
Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our power.
Go ahead.
In the mountains of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion.
Go ahead.
On the sides of the north, the city of the great king.
So we know that Mount Zion is the sides of the north within the earth. Mount Zion is Mount Hermon. So he promised that he would one day go out into the realm and link into the sides of the north. You understand? But he would have to use a gate to do so. And that's why they linked up with the elites to try to get technology that can help him get back there, because once Christ came to the earth, he stopped the doorway in which Lucifer used to go before the throne and accuse the brethren. Now let's go back.
Psalms 24, verse 3.
Let's go.
Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Or who shall stand in this holy place?
Go ahead.
He that hath clean hands.
He that have what?
Clean hands and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul unto vanity, nor sworn deceitfully. He shall receive the blessing from the Most High, the righteousness from the Most High of his salvation.
Go ahead.
This is the generation of them that seek him.
This is the generation of them that seek the Most High.
That seek thy face, O Jacob.
That seek thy face, O who?
O Jacob.
O Jacob. You understand? And that's why all the nations loathe the Most High, because the only pure that can actually get this change and operate with the Father are the sons of Jacob, and they understand this. The Gentiles know this wholeheartedly. So they have joined allegiance with their Lord Lucifer, or Satan, probably other names of God within the Masonic orders all over the earth. They've joined with him so that they can be accepted and one day receive what the Most High promised us. But not by going our way, but going through another door, which Lucifer, or their fallen one Satan, have promised them. Listen to this clearly. Read.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates.
And be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors.
Now I need you to go to heads in your Hebrew real quick, to show you that this is actually speaking of something deeper than what you see through Scripture. Lift up your heads.
It says, lift up your heads, O ye gates.
Go ahead.
The Hebrew word for head is H7218.
Go ahead.
Ra'ash, which is to shake the head.
To shake the head.
As most easily shaken, whether literally or figuratively, in many applications of place, time, rank, etc., hand, beginning, captain, chapiter, chief.
So it's speaking of the leaders which are over portals. It's speaking of the leaders, the angelic leaders. It says here, like a captain or someone of rank that are over these particular portals. Lift up your heads, read.
O ye gates.
Get me gates out of the Hebrew there, elder lawyer. Gates.
This is H8179. Sha'aya.
Which is what?
Which is gate. Opening.
An opening.
Door.
A door.
City.
Go ahead.
Gate. Port.
A port. A portal. Read it.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates.
So it's telling the leaders which are over the portals to prepare, to open them. Read.
And be ye lift up.
And be ye lift up. Read.
Ye everlasting doors.
Ye what?
Ye everlasting doors.
Ye everlasting doors. These are the gates which were in heaven, as we read in Enoch. Read.
And the King of glory shall come in.
And who shall come in?
And the King of glory shall come in. So
this tells us that even the powers that be know exactly what portal Christ is coming through, which will lead to the sides of the north, in which he will weave himself a mountain and begin war against the Gentiles who are over there within the east, that are there in the east. They know exactly what portal he's coming from. And that's why NASA was established.
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosen. In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Wernher von Braun in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space." And I said, teachers don't stop until June. He said, "No, you have to understand, this is February, and we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies," he said, "against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids." And then he would repeat to me over and over, "And the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat, the extraterrestrial threat, the extraterrestrial threat."
They're out there for the impending battle against our Lord and Savior. That's what they're there for. Now, finish reading.
Verse 8. Who is the King of glory?
Who is the King of glory?
The Lord strong and mighty.
Go ahead.
The Lord mighty in battle.
And the Lord mighty in battle. Read.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates. Even lift them up, ye everlasting doors. The King of glory shall come in.
And then it re-emphasizes that the King of glory shall come in. So when you look at it through the Hebrew, brothers and sisters, it's give you a whole different dimension, a whole nother level of understanding this battle that will happen in the spirit world upon Christ's coming. Read.
Verse 10. Who is the King of glory?
Who is the King of glory?
The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory.
He is the King of glory.
Selah.
Selah. Now, what I want you to examine, brothers and sisters, is that the Jesuits, when they got in control, started teaching a deception concerning Christ's coming and the caught up, in which they made you believe that it would be the church being caught up before the Antichrist come on the scene and the mark of the beast is revealed, which have now been founded to be a lie, because the mark of the beast is already on the scene. They've already instituted the RFID chip. It's in your Obama bill. They already have a law in which all the children in Europe, soon between 2014 and 2016, will be chipped. And there's no one-man Antichrist who have called himself God. And no church has been raptured yet. Okay, so they move that whole understanding of the caught up and how those elect in Christ will be moved to a certain place in the earth, and how by bringing you a philosophy called the rapture, which we call the rapture deception. It's not what they're claiming at all. Some church being pulled up. There's nowhere in the Bible. But when it talks about the angels coming from the four winds, it's speaking of opening doors and moving God's people to a geographical location in this earth. That's what it's really speaking of. So those portals on the outside of the earth are linked to doors within the earth, which the angels will travel and grab the elect throughout the four corners. Let me show you. First, let's go with Christ. Let's go to the book of Acts real quick. I'm going to Matthew 24. Hold that. Right? And I want to go into that whirlwind in Ezekiel. That whirlwind in Ezekiel. You there? Ezekiel 1, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to the whirlwind in Ezekiel. We're going to from the four winds in Revelation 7. I want to go there too. Right? But let's go to the book of Acts first.
This is Acts 1 and 7.
Go ahead.
And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power, but ye shall receive power after the Holy Spirit is come upon you.
And when it says you're not to know the times or seasons, it's not saying we can't keep track of time. What that's speaking of is when you look in the book of Matthew, it tells us that no man know the day or the hour. So no one can be on this earth predicting exactly when Christ is coming into the earth. Okay? That's totally off. No man can say, well, listen, Christ's going to be back at this date or that date. Or they can't come and say, well, Christ is in the desert, or they know where Christ is, and start taking people places to meet Christ. That's totally off. All right? So that's what it's speaking of. Read.
But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Spirit is come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea.
Okay, and another thing, the Jerusalem in Israel today is not the true Jerusalem. They have deceived the people into believing that where they are is the Jerusalem of ancient times, and that's a bold-faced lie. Okay, number one, the Israel they're showing you today is only a small slither of how big Israel was. And I'm talking about parts of Egypt, parts of Syria. They only have a little land mass. And see, and that's why they're going into Gaza now, looking to extend, because they realized when they went there that they were only colonizing one part to begin to eventually take all of what originally was Israel. That's what the Middle East war is about. When we fell as a people, the Gentiles went in, Moab, Ammon, you name it. They went into the land and started dividing our land by lots. Other nations started taking parts. And by the time we lost our identity, had no idea who we were, by the time that was fulfilled, that whole land was divided amongst other nations, which had nothing to do with Israel. So when 1948 happened, which was a pretext for the Romans to stake their place in our land, they only colonized a small area and called that the state of Israel. Okay? But that's not Israel. That's only a little part of it. They will never show you where the true Jerusalem is. But the Bible gives us that geographical location. Why? Because Solomon's temple had an aqueduct next to water. And it gives you a geographical location of where the real temple was built and where it is. And it's not what they're showing you, brothers and sisters. It's more so near the sides of the north. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, everything they have showed us, the Gentiles it is, the synagogue of Satan, which are the top sorcerers on this earth, they have played a trick on the whole earth, not just saying that they're Jews. Geographical locations, the real purpose of their Judaism religion, the whole nine. They have lied on everything. But let's not go too far. What you got there?
This is Joshua 1:3-4.
Read.
It says, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that I have given unto you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness.
From the wilderness, that's where we were when we came out of Egypt.
And this Lebanon.
To Lebanon.
Even unto the great river.
Even to the great river.
The river Euphrates.
The river Euphrates. That's all the way through Africa. So that's the real Israel, brothers and sisters. They'll never tell you. So the wars in the Middle East is that these Gentiles, these Romans, their conquest is to actually take all of Israel. And that's why they started in the Middle East, with the same nations who was once at league with the Romans against us. Now that we've been displaced, they have the Gentile Romans, or the Jewish people today, have no pretext but the war against the same people whom helped them destroy us. Now they've taken parts of the Middle East. Their eyes now is towards the people who are near the Euphrates in different parts of Africa, which is really the last war before the coming of Christ. They're looking to eradicate us all together, and that's what they are in Africa for. That's what Bill Gates is in Africa for. He knows that these are the children of Israel. He knows that the Most High have awakened us. They know this. That's the last war. So Israel is not what you think it is. Okay, Israel is way bigger. Greater parts of Syria, greater Syria is were all parts of ancient Egypt. Ancient Israel. Parts of Egypt was our land. But when we fell, the Egyptians started taking some, the Romans started taking some, the children of Lot started taking some, and started dividing our land, calling it theirs. Right? Finish reading. Let's go back to Acts now.
This is Acts 1, verse 9.
Go ahead.
And when he had spoken these things,
while
they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight.
Go ahead.
And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yeshua, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen them go into heaven.
He will ascend. He ascended into heaven. He's going to come back the same way. Read. Read that last part again.
Verse 11, which also said, Ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven?
Why are they looking into heaven? The angels ask. Read.
This same Yeshua, which is taken up from you into heaven.
The Yeshua, which been taken from you up into heaven. Read.
Shall so come in like manner.
He's going to come from space. He's going to come from the heavenly realm. Read.
As you have seen him go into heaven.
So if you want a geographical location of where he's coming from, which is in the mystery and tables, we can go back to where? Let's go. Psalms 24. And read the 7th verse.
Psalms 24, verse 7.
Read.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates.
Lift up your heads, O ye gates.
And be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors. And the King of glory shall come in.
Now we know that these doors, according to the scriptures, are portals, gates. Read.
And the King of glory shall come in.
And the King of glory shall come in. Why ye steadfastly are looking up into heaven? The same way you've seen Christ leave, he shall return. And this is what the elite understands. Now let me show you something else. Let's go back to Revelations.
Revelation 7, verse 1.
Read.
And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth.
The 4 corners of the earth. Read.
Holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree.
Go ahead.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east.
Now, when it says the four corners of the earth, we know that the earth is a circumference. So what it means by the four corners is speaking of the four gates: the north, east, south, and the west. It is not like you're thinking. It's not like you're thinking like straight up is due north. It's just like when you see a globe, it's slightly tilted on axis. So north is like that. And this is how the angels enter in and out. Like our father Jacob seen angels, when you read about Jacob's ladders, angels ascending and descending. It's speaking of them coming in and out of windows from outside the earth. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God.
Go ahead.
And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
Until we have what?
Sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
Sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Read. And
I heard the number of them which were sealed.
And he heard the number of them which were sealed.
And there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel.
And there were sealed 144,000 of all the children of Israel. These are the elect who will be sealed at the very end to lead in the new millennium once Christ returns. Okay? So the Gentiles will never teach you this. The Gentiles will teach you that the Israelites are done away with. They're spiritual Israelites. It doesn't matter who it's, because they don't want you to know that the promises of Abraham will soon fall upon the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That through Christ we will receive our promise, which is the kingdom. Now, let's go back to the portals. Let's go to Matthew 24.
St. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29.
Linking directly to winds. Read.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days. When it talks about the tribulation of those days, this links directly to Revelations 12, where it says the devil will come down knowing that he would have a short time. That means he would destroy the earth. He would do all these things knowing that our people, the people of promise, are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So they would bring in a new world order to identify these elect with that bloodline and totally eradicate these people. And it doesn't matter what other people that are killed in its wake. It doesn't matter. As long as they eradicate the children of Jacob, that's their core plan. And that's the reason for the New World Order. The reason for the New World Order is to finish what Rome started in 70 AD. That's the New World Order. Total eradication and death against Jacob, who we are. Read.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Now,
it's saying this because upon the coming of Christ, all the luminaries that are on the outside of the earth will lessen their light. And the greatest light will come from heaven, which is Christ himself, coming through those ports, which is the port of the north, that high port. Read.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn.
Now, why are all the nations crying and mourning upon Christ's return? Shouldn't we be rejoicing upon the coming of Christ like the Christian church say? Shouldn't we be celebrating Christ's coming? Why are all the families of the earth mourning? Why? Because they're going to lose their position that the gods have given them within this earth. They know that Christ is not coming back to establish in the Asian way or the Roman way or the Arab way or the Middle Eastern. No, he's coming back to establish Zion. And the earth will be ruled from Zion. So the whole earth will mourn, because the majority of this earth have been turned to Baal, to Satan, and have been tricked into following the Antichrist spirit, which is Satan himself. There's not no one man that's going to pop up from somewhere. That's total deception. Anyone waiting for one man to pop up, you are already deceived. The Antichrist spirit have been working since the fall of Lucifer. Read.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven.
Go ahead.
And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn.
Then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn.
And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
In the clouds of heaven. So what you'll see is a total materializing of the spirit world coming into this earth. And see, they try to throw you off by this misinformation all online, talking about Planet X and some invisible planet and all that. That's the same garbage as if you believe that Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. Same distraction. It's all about the war. It's the war against the heavenly realm and the earthly realm, which is ruled by principalities, powers, gods, fallen angels, Nephilim. That's what the war is about. It's not about planet Nibiru. So here it is. The heavenly realm will materialize itself in our realm upon the coming of Christ. Read.
And they shall gather together, Salaki, the rest of verse 30. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
Go ahead.
And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds. From the four winds. Now notice that four winds also link up with the four winds in Revelations, which links up to four ports or gates into the earth. This is how the elect will be gathered. What we're reading here. The angels will come through those ports. There's a north gate, an east gate, a south gate, and a west gate. Okay? What's going on the outside of this earth is nothing of what they're telling you through NASA. NASA is more so a proxy, propaganda machine to throw you off for the real reason of NASA. It's the Pentagon, NASA, all of them. These are demonic hubs with the agenda by their Lord Lucifer to fight against our Lord and Savior. That's what this is about. And to eradicate our people before we receive the promise. That's what this whole thing is really about. Read. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet.
Go ahead.
And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
His elect from the four winds of heaven. Who are the elect? Hold that and get Isaiah 45 and 4. Now this is upon the coming of Christ. Now this gathering will be the elect coming in to where some people already exist. Some will already be in the wilderness, and when the ports is open, the angels will bring the rest. Read.
Isaiah 45 verse 4.
Go ahead.
For Jacob my servant's
sake. For who
sake.
my servant?
For Jacob my servant's sake.
For Jacob my servant's sake.
And Israel mine elect.
And Israel mine elect. So it's speaking of both sides of the kingdom, northern and southern. They're the elect of the Most High. We are the elect of the Most High. To be 100% emphatically clear on this, the Jewish people are not the chosen people of God. They are the chosen people of Lucifer. of their God. But going back to this point here, the elect will be moved into a geographical location in this earth. Let's go back to that scripture to show you the lines in Joshua of the true Jerusalem, the true Israel, that the Most High gave us by line. Let us show you.
This is Joshua 1:3-4.
Read.
Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses, from the wilderness and this Lebanon.
The wilderness
and this Lebanon.
And this, now the wilderness is all the way in Saudi Arabia. It's on the borders of the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. That belongs to Israel. Read.
And this Lebanon.
And this Lebanon.
Even unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
And that's why the so-called UN is right now in Africa in certain geographical locations. They're looking to take all that land that was once ours, even the land that goes into Africa. See that? When it doesn't belong to them. Right? Now, let's go to Ezekiel, the 20th chapter.
Also, to add to that, the Euphrates River runs in Mesopotamia, near Syria.
Exactly.
Iraq,
Syria, Iraq. Exactly. When you look at the river Euphrates, Syria, Iraq, down into Africa, all that was originally, parts of all that was originally parts of Israel. When we fell as a people, you have to realize we were a big nation. Let alone when the northern kingdom fell first, then the Assyrians start to misplace a lot of their people in the southern parts of Israel, which now we call after their lands. The same thing when it happened to us. We had a mass part of the east. The ancient Israel map, compared to the small little slither of Israel we see on the map today, the landmass is exponentially great compared to that little slither of Israel we see. So that also resolved the reason for why the Jewish people over in Israel today are in war with these other nations, because they're saying that Israel belongs to them. So they have the ancient maps of what Israel once was. And when you look at the geographical lines that was promised to our fathers, these are the lands that the Jewish people are fighting against, claiming that the land belongs to them. Not just that little slither they colonized as a base before taking the rest. Okay? Thank you for bringing that point there, right? Mm-hmm. Let's read Ezekiel 20.
Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 1.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month, in the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of the Lord and sat before me.
Go ahead.
Then came the word of the Lord unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto the elders of Israel, and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord Power, Are ye come to inquire of me? As I live, saith the Most High Power, I will not be inquired of by you. Wilt thou judge them, son of man? Wilt thou judge them? Cause them to know the abominations of their fathers, and say unto them, Thus saith the Most High Power, in the day when I chose Israel,
in the day in which I chose Israel,
and lifted up my hand unto the seed of the house of Jacob, and made myself known unto them in the land of Egypt, when I lifted up my hand unto them, saying, I am the Most High your power, and the day that I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth of the land of Egypt into a land that I espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then said I unto them.
So that land, Israel, is the glory of all lands. And see, I want to put this out there too, that you have tribes out there who know they're Israel in Africa, that are now looking to gain status by the Jewish people in Israel. They're compromising themselves and bowing to Satan. Okay? We're not looking for no recognition from the imposters that stole Israel for some political status. That's not what it's about. It's about exalting the kingdom to come. And let them know that our Lord and Savior is going to tear their kingdom down, including the land of Israel they're in today. Not compromising and being recognized as a tribe by the Jewish people. You there? Mm-hmm. What you got?
This is Numbers 23 and 9.
Numbers 23 and 9. Read it.
It says, "From the top of the rocks I see him, and from the depths of the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations."
And shall not be what?
And shall not be reckoned among the nations.
And shall not be reckoned among the nations. So we as a people are not looking to get recognition by Gentiles. Especially Gentiles that are claiming to be us, whom we know are Idumeans and Romans. Okay, so now that the Most High has shined his light and have actually magnified his people in the earth and have given them the truth concerning their true identity, now you have others that are using that status to try to get recognition from Israel. We're not going for it. Let's go back to Ezekiel.
Yes, sir. Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 6.
Go ahead.
"And the day that I lifted up my hand unto them to bring them forth out of the land of Egypt."
Which is a higher. He guided the children of Israel out of Egypt. Read.
"Into a land that I espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Then said I unto them, Cast ye away every man the abominations of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the Lord your power. But they rebelled against me and would not hearken unto me."
But we rebelled and would not listen. Read.
"They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt."
Exactly, and that's why it shows you, even in past time when we left Egypt, while Moses was up in the mount receiving the information that we're talking about today, our people began to make the same idols that we knew about in Egypt and try to relate it to us being Israel. They try to take the Gentile way and infuse it into the Most High's law, statutes, and commandments and worships, the same way they do today. I see brothers today operating with beanies on their head like the Jewish people, the little things around on top of their head, worshiping on the holy days of the nations, calling on Yahweh, putting on the star of Moloch. And also, come to find out, going further into the star of Moloch, that linked directly to involuntary worshiping of angels. Because the six-pointed star inverted was actually a geographical location of all the 12 ports. So that now the Gentiles could worship the angels in the 12 ports. Even that symbol came from the worshiping of angels. And the Gentiles sacrificed children in that same star. That's what it's really about. Sacrificing to the angels whom the Gentiles worship. You see brothers running around with that on their neck, which only represents the death of our children. Read.
The rest of verse 8.
Go ahead.
"Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. But I brought for my name's sake."
But for his name's sake.
"But I wrote for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen, among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness. And I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them.
I gave them my what?
Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths.
I gave them my Sabbaths.
To be a sign between me and them.
To be a what?
A sign between me and them.
How do we quantify or link this all in? Let's hold it and get Genesis, the first chapter, where it says what will be signs for us in the earth. What did he set for signs for us?
This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 14.
Read.
Then the Most High Ahia said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens.
Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens.
To divide the day from the night.
To divide the day from the night.
And let them be for signs.
Let them be for what?
For signs.
For signs.
And for seasons.
And for seasons.
For days.
For days.
And years.
And years. Go back to Ezekiel 20 and read that last verse again.
This is Ezekiel 20 and 12. Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths.
I gave them my Sabbaths.
To be a sign.
To be a sign.
Between me and them.
Between us and the Most High. To show you that by following the Sabbaths, you're following the holy luminaries and keeping track of the heavenly time through Sabbaths. See? 52 Sabbaths, a complete year. See, at one time, we didn't have timepieces on our arms and on our, or computers with the time on it so that we'll know what time it was. At one time, before this technology, in order to keep track of time, we as a people had to stay connected to the heavenly realm. See? And by them disconnecting us from how to keep time, they've separated us from the Most High and the Most High's time, the Most High seasons, the Most High holy days. And that's what keep us on point concerning judgment. They have totally separated us from that to a point now where we don't even look up as a people anymore. We don't even know what's out there as a people. Read.
13. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness.
Go ahead.
They walked not in my statutes.
So we walk not in the statutes of the Most High. That's why we're scattered. Read.
And they despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them.
Go ahead.
And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted.
And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Now we know how we greatly polluted the Most High Sabbaths. We started linking up the Sabbath to the Gentile moon holy days. Read.
Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. But I wrote for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen in whose sight I brought them out.
Go ahead.
Verse 15. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands.
To show you that a remnant of us did not go into the land. The Most High killed off a whole generation that came out of Egypt, to where the only people who originally were in Egypt who walked into the land was Joshua and Caleb. Only two people that left Egypt actually walked in. And we left out a multitude. And only two people from that generation walked into the land. Only the children walked in. That was outside of Joshua and Caleb. To show you that the purging that's going on in the earth is also similar to the same, where a large percentage of the people will not walk in. We're going to go there in a moment. Read.
Verse 16. Because they despised my judgments and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols.
To show you the importance of the Sabbath. And the Christians, they repeat over and over again, listen, the Sabbath is done away with. We're not dealing with the Sabbath. Sunday is the new Sabbath. Come to church on Sunday. You cannot follow the old law while they follow a law every Sunday against the Most High. To show you the importance of our Sabbaths. So Sabbath is deep. You follow the Sabbaths as holy days, but also It's an indicator of time. It's to stay on course with the Most High. Read.
Verse 17. Nevertheless, mine eyes spared them from destroying them.
Go ahead.
Neither did I make an end of them in the wilderness, but I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers.
So he told the children, don't follow your fathers.
Neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols. For I am the Most High your power. Walk in my statutes, and keep my judgments, and do them, and hallow my Sabbaths. And they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Most High your power.
So if we keep the Most High Sabbath, that's the sign that we are the children of the Most High, because we are obedient to our Father. That's the sign that he looks for in the earth, whether or not we are reverencing and respecting his Sabbaths. Read.
21. Notwithstanding, the children rebelled against me.
The children rebelled. We began to walk after the ways of the Gentiles.
They walked not in my statutes which I kept, neither kept my judgments to do them. Which if a man do, he shall even live in them.
Go ahead.
They polluted my Sabbaths. Then I said, I would pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the wilderness. Nevertheless, I withdrew my hand and wrought for my name's sake, that I should not be polluted in the sight of the heathen, in whose eyes I brought them forth. I lifted up my hand unto them also in the wilderness, that I would scatter them among the heathen and disperse them through the countries.
So now it's been accomplished. We've been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Like in Jeremiah said, we have lost our identity. We have no idea who we are. Or where we came from. That happened. The slave ships, all that happened because we began to forget the Most High Sabbaths and follow the way of the heathen. Read.
Because they had not executed my judgments, but had despised my statutes, and had polluted my Sabbaths, and their eyes were after their fathers' idols.
Go ahead.
Wherefore I gave them also statutes that were not good, and judgments whereby they should not live. And I polluted them in their own gifts, and that they caused to pass through the fire all that openeth the womb, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the Most High power.
So to have you understand what happened here, because our foreparents didn't want to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, he turned them over to the God of this world. And they began to sacrifice their children to the God of this world. Now, I know some people out there read this and say, well, that's not right. Why would God turn over his children? Well, he give mankind a path. He give you a choice. So it's not the Most High, per se. It was our choice to give our children to Satan by not following the Most High. Read.
27. Therefore, son of man, speak unto the house of Israel, and say unto them, Thus saith the Most High power.
This is what Ahiah say.
Yet in this your fathers have blasphemed me, and that they have committed a trespass against me. For when I had brought them into the land, for the which I lifted up my hand to give it to them, then they saw every high hill, and all the thick trees, and they offered there their sacrifices. And there they presented the provocation of their offering. There also they made this sweet savor, and poured out their drink offerings. Then I said unto them, What is the high place whereunto ye go? And the name thereof is called Bamah unto this day. Wherefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus saith the Most High power, Are ye polluted after the manner of your fathers?
Now, when it talks about the high place, you have to realize Israel fell as a nation and began to build high places to Ashtoreth and the gods and goddesses of the Gentiles. So the Most High is asking, where's these high places you're worshiping me at? I can relate that now to someone walking into a Catholic church, or walking into a mosque, or walking into some big cathedral you think is church. Read.
Verse 30.
Go ahead.
Wherefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Most High Power, are ye polluted after the manner of your fathers, and commit ye whoredom after their
You
abominations?
see, and that's the whoredom we commit by following the religions of the nations, of the great whore, the Babylonian great whore, which is the Christian church, which is the mother of all religions in this earth. Read.
31. For when ye offer your gifts, when ye make your sons to pass through the fire, ye pollute yourselves with all your idols, even unto this day.
Even until this day that we're reading. Read.
And I shall be inquired of by you, O house of Israel.
So let you know the Most High says he will visit us on these actions. Read.
As I live, saith the Lord Power.
Now it's coming into our time. Listen clearly.
I will not be inquired of by you, and that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all that ye say, we will be as the heathen, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone.
The wood is your Christianity. The stone is your Islam. Read.
As I live, saith the Lord Power, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out.
The stretched out arm and fury poured out. Read.
Will I rule over you.
Go ahead.
And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein you are scattered.
Now, as you can see, this is something that have never happened before. Israel coming back. So he says, I will gather you out of the places wherein ye are scattered.
With a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm.
With a stretched out arm, and speaking of the angels grabbing, read.
And with fury poured out.
While there's destruction coming in the earth.
And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people.
So upon the coming of Christ, as we read in the book of Matthew, the remnant that are throughout the earth will be brought back into this same wilderness, the same area we were in before. How will they be pulled in? It tell you in Enoch, through ports, through gates. Okay? There's gates, 12 all around the earth. So when the angels are sent in from the four winds around the earth, they will come in and grab those of the bloodline of the children of Israel and bring them into the wilderness. That is the next phase. That's the next phase that Christian churches are not even speaking of. They're only speaking of somebody disappearing, and then you look up and your mother's not there and your sister's not there. That's total madness. Total madness that have nothing to do with the last judgment of Israel. That's what this is speaking of. Read.
And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people.
I will bring you into the wilderness of the people.
And there will I plead with you face to face.
And now the Most High is going to deal with us again like he once did coming out of ancient Egypt. Now, mind you, Christ was that cloud that was utilized as an intercessor between the Most High and us before. That will happen again. Christ was there during our deliverance out of Egypt. I know we like to give all credit to Moses, but Moses was being led by the Son of the Most High. Hold that and let's get that out of the epistles real quick. In Corinthians, the 10th chapter, real quick. You got it?
Yes, sir.
Let's read it. Let's show you that Christ led us and led Moses in the Old Testament. And this is for the Hebrews out there that want to joke about Christ and say that Christ is not our leader and all these things. You're not going to make it. As a matter of fact, you might as well be Gentile if you don't believe in Christ. When I say Gentile, you might as well don't be of the bloodline. Because without Christ, we cannot now be sons. So it doesn't matter if you know about the slave ships and what happened to us in slavery and prophecy. If you don't receive Christ or understand Christ, it's all for nothing. Because Christ led us before, he will lead us again. Read it.
Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud,
All our fathers were under the cloud,
and all passed through the sea,
and all passed through the sea, which was the Red Sea.
and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea.
And it says baptized because why? We had to go through water to be saved back then. Read.
And did all eat the same spiritual meat,
That was that manna that rained from heaven, which is angels' food, to show you angels do eat. Read.
and did all drink the same spiritual drink.
And that was the water that was pulled from the rock. Read.
For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them.
They drank of that spiritual rock that followed them because why? It was Christ. Christ was that division between us and the Egyptian pharaohs. And the Pharaoh and his army that was looking to destroy us. So it says followed us because he was in between us and our enemies. Read.
And that rock was Christ.
That rock was who?
And that rock was Christ.
And that rock was Christ. So Christ in the Spirit was sent in the Old Testament, and the prophets believed on him at that time, even before he came in the earth. So that same thing is going to happen again. And see, that's the part of the gospel that needs to be taught when it speaks of the angels gathering us from the four winds. It's not speaking of some church being raptured. What mess is that? Let's go back to Ezekiel. It's speaking of the angels coming through portals and moving us from one part of the earth into the wilderness. Period. That's what it is. So some of us throughout the earth are not going to physically leave in certain places. They're going to be where they are, and the Most High is going to bring them, and they'll meet those who left before them. Okay? But of course, we can't relate that to a place that will be utterly destroyed before Christ returns. Because if there's no land, if there's no people living there physically, then there's no people to be moved out of that particular area. But the rest of the earth, there will be a gathering. Read on.
Verse 37.
Go ahead.
And I will cause you to pass under the rod.
I will cause you to pass under the rod.
And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Go ahead.
And I will purge out from among you the rebels.
I will purge out from among Israel the rebels.
And them that transgress against me.
These are those that will bring that same religion, the same way they're practicing, into the wilderness. And see, and that's why we must get it now. Because a lot of people think that if you're in the wilderness, you've already made it because you've been taken through the portals into the wilderness. You think you're saved. You're not. Because that will be the final purging. All of Israel that went into Israel didn't go into the land. That went into the wilderness, didn't go into the land of Israel. So there was those that were still worshiping Egyptian deities and all that. So some people out there are going to think because they moved through the portals that they went into the wilderness, that their practice and what they were doing was right. The Most High is going to give us an opportunity, a last opportunity, to get right there. The last purging. Some people are going to still be running around and think they should follow things according to the heathen. They're going to be looking at the moon to try to do Sabbaths, all that. Read on.
38. And I will purge out from among you the rebels.
I will purge out from among you the rebels.
And them that transgress against me.
And those that transgress against me.
I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn.
And I'm going to bring them out of the country in which they sojourn. Proving to you, this is a future prophecy. Israel have not been gathered together as one as of yet. We wasn't delivered from our captivity out of the nations yet. So this is future, what we're reading here in Ezekiel. And he also showed us the mistakes of our fathers before we get to the wilderness, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes our fathers did. See? Read.
The rest of verse 38.
Go ahead.
And they shall not enter into the land of Israel.
And they shall not enter into the land of Israel. So there will be one more gathering. Read.
And ye shall know that I am the Most High.
And that's why you notice he says, you shall know I am the Most High. That's the Most High, Ahaya. All right. Now, there's more information I have on the portals that I want to go into, strictly speaking of the gates that the elders were able to see in the temple linking to the heavenly realm, the gates and portals. So I'm going to have an entire lesson strictly on that. How the temple that was built in the earth was a similitude to the temple in heaven, so that the priest could actually communicate through these gates. I'm going to go into that in a future lesson, but I wanted to break down the fact that the portals do exist and what does that mean concerning time and how Christ will return through the ports, the sides of the north. With that, I'm going to say shalom, and there's one other point I wanted to bring out.